Guys, welcome back to another video here from the Overkill garage in super hot sunny Australia. 41 degrees today, and we have like 33 inside the garage here. It is a bit warm, but I'm out here to make a video for you, not with the step-loss battery, not with the Powerwall 2. Whatever it's called now. No, with the good old battery shelf here with our Battery 2.0. We have fully charged the battery now. Yeah, we have fully charged the battery. It's in absorption state for a while. It takes 3 amps only. You can see all the solar charge controllers all in yellow, all synchronized charging, nice. And let me switch to the screen recording here for our Heltec BMS. Exactly, the Heltec BMS in the bottom of our battery shelf. It is fully charged, 55.2 volts, and you can see the balancer is working, but we still have a deviation of 181 millivolts. See that? 177 now. It is incredible how bad this battery is actually balanced down there. And since we built this battery last May, so this is like 9 months ago, I was always watching the BMSs when the battery is fully charged, you know me. And I could see this for a while now, that the bottom battery is not balancing well. Let's have a quick look at the other BMSs, just for comparison. Middle shelf, JK-BMS, active balancer. Ooh. We have a charge over temperature. I've never seen that before. Wow. Okay, this was actually not what I wanted to show you, but let me address this charge over temper protection. 45 degrees. Do we have more than 45 degrees in there? Ah, yes, we have, because one of the temperature sensors is actually stuck in the breaker. And we had like 180 amps outside today, so it must have reached this 50 degrees or whatever it's set to. Okay, let me have a quick look what's going on here. Charge over temperature protection 45 degrees. Recovery at 40. We have close to 40 degrees inside the battery pack at the moment in the battery shelf here. It's insanely hot. I didn't turn the aircon on today because I wanted to fully charge the battery as quickly as possible. And with the aircon on, it takes like 2 or 3, 4 hours longer. It was a bit cloudy this morning, but now it's all sunny, so I'm turning the aircon on right now. And hopefully this battery here recovers quickly, and then it cools down a bit. That is insane. Password 1 2 3 4 5 6. Verify. Okay, let me quickly. So we've got 40 degrees as temperature number 2 now. Okay, so it should turn on every second anyway. Let's go in the settings and send this one here to 41 or something. Okay. And now we should see this one disappearing, and then we charge again with 122 amps into this battery. So that's why we haven't reached the 100% state of charge yet. I was just wondering what is going on. It was still sitting on 95. Okay, let's quickly recharge this battery here, and I'll be back in a second. That is not part of the video actually here. This is not what I wanted to show you. But here, while we are charging this battery with 100 amps, the cell deviation is about 50 millivolt at 55 volts, right? So we are almost at 55.2 where the absorption kicks in, but we still have about 50 millivolt deviation. Even it is the JK-BMS with active balancing, which is working right now, I still have a relatively high voltage difference here across the cells. And every time I fully charge, I can see the JK-BMS activating the balancer, and we have like 35, 40, 50 millivolt deviation, and then after half an hour it is down like 15 or so, you know. So it works actually, the balancing works. But I was wondering, why do I have to balance every single day, every single time I fully charge the battery again, you know? And the middle shelf, the JK battery here in the middle shelf, this is the only one where we have used the aluminium bus bars. See them? These are Power Paul's aluminium bus bars from Melbourne. And this was again a test, a long-term test to see how the battery performs. Well, this is exactly how it performs. So we see a bit more of a deviation of a voltage delta in this battery. And I'm not 100% sure if this is because of the battery itself, or there's a bad connection somewhere, or the bus bars. So not sure. But at the moment you can see 40 millivolt deviation. Current is still 70 amps going into this battery. That's fine. And let's do the Overkill-Solar BMS at the top shelf. And I don't use the Xiaoxiang app anymore. I'm actually using the original Overkill-Solar app now on my mobile phone. The Xiaoxiang app had some issues, and I never liked that you cannot actually select what kind of BMS you want to connect to or what battery you want to connect to, because it shows the overview about all the available BMSs only for a few seconds, and then it selects one of them randomly. And because I've got so many, I need a bit of time, because I'm older, to select the right one. And I never could do this. And the actual Overkill-Solar app gives you all the time old people need to select the right BMS. So I'm using this one now, and it looks actually much better than the Xiaoxiang app, and it also has a dark mode. So yeah. All right, Overkill BMS here at the top. Let's connect. So in here we can see the Overkill BMS in the top shelf of our battery pack, and the deviation is only 15 millivolt here. Even this BMS has only 150 milliamp passive balancer as well, so very similar to the Heltec in the bottom shelf. But you can see the difference here from 17 millivolt to 180 millivolt in the Heltec BMS. And I was wondering why that is actually. So here again, the Heltec BMS again, 181 millivolt. You can see the little flashes there on the battery symbols, which are the balancing function of the BMS, but it never got this battery balanced here at all. Regardless how long I absorb, I leave the battery at 55.2 volts, and it just doesn't come through, it just doesn't work. No successful balancing happening in this battery. So the Overkill BMS has pretty much the same balancing function or feature than the Heltec BMS in the bottom shelf. It's about 120, 150 milliamp passive balancer they're both using, but the Overkill BMS, or the battery in the top shelf, was always perfectly balanced down to 10 millivolt only, while the bottom shelf battery with the Heltec BMS connected had always like 180, 200 millivolt deviation. And it never got better in the last 9 months since we installed this battery shelf here, while the Overkill BMS with its battery was always perfect. Well, and there can be only two possible scenarios for that. So either our battery here is perfectly installed and put together, so all the bus bars have very little resistance to the actual terminals, everything fits perfectly together, and the BMS just doesn't have any work to do with balancing. There's nothing to do. Everything is balanced, and it stays balanced because the resistance is so low. And in the bottom shelf battery with the Heltec BMS, it might be different. We may not have such a good connection to the bus bars, and the BMS has just more to do to get them balanced. Or scenario 2, the balancing function of the Heltec BMS is totally garbage, and the balancing function of the Overkill-Solar BMS is totally sweet. Even they have the same feature with 150 milliamp passive balancing. So I don't know what's going on here, but today is the day. I have turned on the aircon already, so it's getting a little bit cooler now in here. What I want to do now is I want to swap the BMSs between these two battery banks and see if the Overkill does actually a magic on this battery here as well. And as you may remember, we have installed these terminal blocks here for all our connections to the balance cables. And it is a very easy task now to swap these two BMSs. We have these terminals here to connect to the negative, and there's another double terminal there to connect to our breaker. So we just need to take out the BMS, take out all the balance leads, and put them down here into the other terminal block. If we are super lucky, we may actually can reuse the terminals and they're using the same plug. And we will see once we take off the cover if this is the same. That would be amazing, of course. Yeah, and then we swap them over and see if the Overkill BMS is really superior to the Heltec in terms of balancing, or if we just have a perfect put together battery bank here. We don't know. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Wow, and they are warm. Let's have a look. 37-degree cell temperature. That's like 98 Fahrenheit. Wow, that is warm. And the BMS itself has BMS 34. And what about the one at the back? 37.8, yeah, almost 38 degrees. This is only 5 degrees over ambient temperature. This is the problem. The ambient temperature is far too hot in the garage here for these batteries, so we have to think about a permanent solution for this issue in summertime here. But not of our concern at the moment. So what we are going to do is now isolate this battery completely from our battery bank. This is totally turned off. We've got a 2-pole breaker here, positive, negative. This battery is now completely isolated from the rest of the bus bar, which is up here. So we can safely disconnect the negative here and the negative over there, and then hope for the best that these cables fit, but I don't think so. I don't think they will fit. Can any one of you remember what torque settings we used for these screws here, these little terminals here? I can't remember, so we have to measure the torque when we take these nuts off and see how much we get actually. See, oh, there wasn't much. Okay, so the Overkill BMS comes with a switch actually, so we can turn it off completely before we disconnect everything. It's off now. It should come on. It's the Bluetooth module. All right, one nut. Okay. Balance cables off, and all the other cables, whatever they are here, switch and Bluetooth, and there we go. Here's our BMS taken out. This took like 1.5 minutes. Insane. Let's measure the temperature down here as well. 34, 36, yeah, so it's around 2 degrees difference between the bottom shelf and the top shelf only, so it's not too much actually. All right, so take the battery offline as well, and now everything runs just from this one battery here with the JK-BMS connected. And this was the whole purpose of the design, right? We can take off all these battery banks and leave just one connected, and the whole show keeps going here. Very good. I'm very pleased I did all that. All right, here as well we can turn off the BMS thing holding this red button. Yep, and then it turns off. So I've got now both BMSs here, but unfortunately they have completely different connectors here. They've got completely different connectors, so I need to change the balance cables as well. Shouldn't take that long. Connecting the balance cables to my terminal here was actually a breeze, because Maddie from the Digital Mermaid, who has sent me this BMS here a while back, has actually labeled all these balance cables, and they correspond with my labeling on the terminal. So number 1 is number 1 here, and number 7 is number 7 on the terminal. That is incredible. So I've got my label maker already here. I'll do the same with the Heltec BMS as well here. So in case I need to swap them over again for whatever reason, it is done. It is so much easier to reconnect everything to the terminal blocks. So if you build your own solar system, make sure you've got one of these pink label makers here. It makes it so much easier in the future, and you will thank yourself and me maybe for the tip. Okay, so next step would be to measure the voltages on all our balance cables and see if they are in the right order. I've shown this many times before, but I'll show you again. So you take the, of course you can't see shit here, of course. Oh well, this is all you get. So we take the white one first and connect to the negative. This is the black cable here on the side, You actually see something? Maybe. The black one is our black probe. And then we measure the first battery cell. What do we have? 3.4 something, 3.5 almost. Then the second pin, 6.9. Third one, 10.46. And you keep going. And it should increase by about 3 point something volt every time you move your red probe to the next pin. And then you make sure they're all in the right order and nothing is mixed up. You can easily mix up, for example, 6 and 9 if they are labeled, and if this happens, it's not good. Okay, I'll get this quickly done and then we can reconnect the Overkill-Solar BMS already. So, and now we reconnect the B-, this is the blue line, to our battery negative, and the C- for charger goes to our breaker. Super flexible silicon cables here, amazing. And this is what Overkill-Solar does. They replace the cables for you with these flexible silicon cables. Originally this is a JBD, a JK BMS, and Overkill-Solar does a bit of modification with that before they resell it to you. And one of the new features are these super flexible and bigger, thicker connection cables. So they are amazing. The power switch, temperature sensor, one goes in between the battery row and the other one sticks in the breaker, and the third one just is hanging around here, doesn't do anything. Okay, let's connect the balance cables and hope for the best. We've got a blue light and the other balance cable. Let's see if we can connect Overkill-Solar app, Overkill BMS. There it is. It is working, guys. That's pretty cool. And it's already balancing. Look down here. Balancing, 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 balancing. What are we measuring? 182 millivolt as well. So the measurement was correct from the Heltec, but it couldn't rectify it. So let's leave this one connected here for a while. I'll leave this connected anyway for months now, maybe. So over time we will see if there's an improvement, if the Overkill-Solar BMS is actually better in balancing than the Heltec. I think there's something else going on, but that's probably the easiest way to find out. So the only other thing we need to do now is to tell the BMS that we have a 280 ampere hour battery bank and not a 304 anymore. So there must be a setting somewhere. So full, here, up here, total battery capacity 307040. Okay, total cycle capacity. Okay, so we need to change this one to, it's milliampere hours. Woo! 280 123, and the cycle capacity should be 280 123 as well. And then we hit the BMS right button, and now the BMS knows, well, that is a 280 ampere hour battery bank. All right, that's all done. Ah, no, hang on. Where is it? Where's it going? Overkill BMS here. We have to turn it on. Overkill BMS. Let's connect. Okay, so let's turn it back on. All right, we are live, and we can see here 0.7, 1.5, 2 amps, 9 amps. Just gets recharged a bit. It was offline for like 15-20 minutes or so. Nice. And here, look at this. After 9 months, there's nothing. Not one piece of dust in there. Isn't that amazing? Look at this. Nothing. No dust, nothing. We've got these rubber ceilings here and everything is totally sealed, silicone around it. Bad for the air circulation and cooling, but very good for dust and insects. Okay, Overkill-Solar BMS, welcome to your new home. Also, I like the maintenance light in here. It is so nice. I have now all labels on these balance cables here as well for the Heltec BMS, and this should make life very easy now to reconnect this one to our terminal block inside the top battery shelf. So let's get this done and reconnect the battery. So keen to see what happens. So I have checked all the voltages of the balance cables. This is all fine. Let's connect the Bluetooth. We've got a bit more to connect here, like the display. Display plugs in here. Okay, let's plug in the balance cable. Second part comes on. Shows us 54.7 volts and 95% state of charge. Nice. Torqued. This is all done. Everything connected. Display is connected. Okay, let's turn it on. So we can see the battery voltage already, 54.72 volts. As a quick recap, this was part of the design to keep the battery and the BMS together, even the main circuit breaker is turned off. So in case of a problem, or if the circuit breaker trips for whatever reason, or for maintenance like this, I can fully isolate the battery from the bus bar, from the rest of the system, and have the BMS connected to the battery to do troubleshooting or balancing or any kind of measuring of voltages, of cell voltages, to find a faulty cell or something, without interfering with the rest of the installation. So that's why I always keep the BMS and the battery together, and then the main fuse or main breaker or main switch air, not the other way around. I'm not isolating the BMS because I think BMS and battery belongs together. This is one unit. They always stay together. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We turn on the main breaker. Let's see if there's any current going in or out. I guess it's discharging a bit, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it's not doing anything because it has exactly the same voltage as the other two banks. Temperature failure status. Of course. I forgot to plug in the temperature probes. Okay, they're in. And the fault has cleared. And we should now measure two temperatures. Oh, and now we can see we are discharging with 60 amps. So the temperature probes actually prevented the BMS from discharging. That's interesting. Yeah, I was just wondering why the discharge and charge switch are off. So interesting behavior, right? No temperature sensors, the BMS won't do anything. So temperature sensor number 1 goes in the battery, just in between the cells, and probe number 2 goes into a hole here in the breaker. This is not meant to be for temperature measuring or something in the breaker. I just use it for that purpose. So there we have it. 40 degrees inside the batteries and 36 in the breaker. They are still hot, these babies. Wow, it was a hot, sweaty day. Tomorrow I try again with the aircon on during the day and see what the difference actually is then in temperature. Not sure if it makes a big difference actually. Okay, so what we can see now is here the voltage difference is only 10 millivolt at the moment, which is perfect, but we have also discharged the battery already a bit, so we are at 3.3 volts. So this does not count. Everything under 3.4 volts is already in the flat area of the curve, and you cannot see if the voltage is actually higher or lower than in any other cell of your battery bank. You need to charge to a 3.45 at least, or a bit higher, to see the difference. And then you can start balancing. So tomorrow will be the day, the first day, to see if it makes actually a difference. Let's see. You can see there. No, you can't see anything. You probably cannot see shit there on the display. Doesn't matter. 14 amps. I've got the app on. 14 amps discharging with the Heltec BMS. So that's all good. All right, I'll close the gate here again with the plastic, and then I'll go back in the pool. And soon, very soon, I will have an ice cold spat. Super ice cold, maybe only 2 degrees or something. Super ice cold. By the way, guys, thank you so much for your generous donations here to buy me a beard, a spat, which I can calibrate freshly now, straight out of the fridge. So thank you very much for everyone who has donated and is part of the SPAT team. And doing this work here inside the garage, I really need it now. So, and in the last step, we need to tell the Heltec BMS that we have a different battery capacity now. 280, there it is. So, new value 304. Yes, I'm sure. Okay, done. Cool. Alright, there it says capacity 304 ampere hour 16S. Alright guys, I think this was part 1 so far. We have swapped the Heltec BMS with the Overkill BMS. Or is it the other way around? And I guess time will tell if this actually works. And I'll let you know in a week or so how we go, if the actual cell balance has decreased here in the bottom shelf with the Overkill-Solar. How can I possibly remember all that? Maybe I should put a little sticker here in the window, which has all the important information about the battery and the BMS and all the talks, and it's getting a lot. Anyway guys, I'll be back in the pool, we'll have a cold spat, and I'll talk to you again in a week or so.